Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Jade Legacy, book number 3 in the Green Bone Saga by Fonda Lee. If you've watched my channel at all, you know that I loved Jade City and I loved Jade War. I left reviews of both of those books on my channel. You know, I can't remember when I left them. Just all you gotta do, if you want to find them, folks, just type in my last name, Jade City, Jade War. I swear to God, if you type those things into your YouTube search bar, the video will magically appear on your computer. That's how the internet works for those of you who are just trying to figure it out. Anyway, what do I like about this song? Well, first of all, we always talk about the covers. Because you know I love cover design. I love graphic design and cover illustration. This has got a really great, big, huge, bold, bright blue Jade City with the with this great kind of sculpture work in the background. And it matches perfectly with the other books. You can see they all look like they belong in a trilogy. And then we put them all facing this way on our shelf. And they all go together. They all look like they belong in the same series. And they're even numbered 1, 2, and 3, which is brilliant. Orbit Books does that. I've noticed Orbit Books typically numbers on the spine what book you've got in your hand, which is brilliant. I mean, 11 million years of the written word, and it's finally Orbit Book figured that out to put the number of the book on the spine. 11 million years of the written word. Finally, a publisher did it for us. Anyway, where were we at? Oh, we were talking about the book. I like the packaging. That's all I can say. Big, bold. I mean, you see these on the shelf, and you see these things on the shelf, and it's like Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy. You have no. I mean, there's no mistaking what the title of the books are. Just right in your face. I love it. Anyway, these things. Oh, not only that, we're going to talk about the packaging of the book a little bit more because we're not done. There are great maps in here. Great maps that I love. In fact, this road atlas, there's a detail at the bottom of this road atlas that says Wutu Fukusuku Road Atlas Company. Yeah, the Wutu Fukusuku Road Atlas Company made this map. It's just little details like that I love. And then this little map of our main place looks like a dead rat. I love it how it looks. It's in the shape of a dead rat. Just brilliant. Just brilliant. So that's the packaging of the book. What about the insides? Well, you know, I gave both of the other books really glowing reviews. And so where does this one stand? Well, just as a brief introduction to the saga, if you haven't read any of these yet, it is about 2 crime syndicate families in a area that I would consider comparable to Hong Kong or Kowloon, China. Although it's more of like a fantasy land area. And these crime syndicate families are much like most mafioso families, like the Sopranos or Goodfellas or The Godfather. You know, they fight back and forth over territory and different things. But one of the things they're fighting about is jade. And jade is this stuff that you can bet in your... And you can learn this in these other reviews that I did. It's just this... It gets embedded in your skin kind of like a tattoo, and it gives you sort of a little bit of a supernatural boost when you're doing your karate or your jujitsu or whatever fighting they do. You know, when you watch those old kung fu movies or those Jackie Chan movies and the karate and it's just outlandishly over the top? Well, this jade that gets burned into your skin is sort of like tattoo-like. Well, that explains why your fighting style is so wildly over the top and why you can kick everyone's ass so easily. It sort of gives you a supernatural power with your you know. And so that's kind of what they're fighting over. And the clans are called the No Peaks Clan and the Mountain Clan. And they've been warring back and forth through these first two books. And, there's a character list. That's another thing I wanted to say. There's a great character list of all the clans and all their factions and all their peoples, all the people that are at the top of the clan and their hitmen, and all of the different people, their spies and hitmen. It's just cool. It's just a great little character list so you can keep everything, on top. And I also compare this. One of the things is I compare this saga to Noble House by James Clavell. Noble House is also sort of a financial, sort of behind the doors, wheelings and dealings of high finance, crime syndicates in China, Hong Kong, Kowloon area. And it's about 1,200 page novel. And it's just one of my favorite books of all. And these Jade books really sort of mirror a lot of the themes and stuff that are in James Clavell. And I really kind of like almost compare the two a little bit too much. And you're going to see that in a little bit. A lot of action. The first half of this book, there's just a lot of crime syndicate, backroom wheeling and dealing, sort of courtroom intrigue between all these factions trying to get things, all situated in their favor. And then a lot of backstabbing, a lot of spycraft, a lot of betrayal, a lot of things like that. The tension doesn't start to ramp up until kind of like the second half of the book. Now, I loved these first two books. One of the things I'm going to say about this book that I wasn't too fond of was there's big jumps in time, like big gaps in time. Like we're reading the book and then all of a sudden it skips ahead like 6 years. Now that didn't happen in these two other books. And it skips ahead. There's these big chunks where you're like, oh, we're now 6 years in the future. Well, what happened in those 6 years? I guess nothing really exciting. So, it's like the 14th year of the 6th month. And then, when we start out in the, let's see where it was we started out. Can't remember where we started out. Oh, yeah, the 6th year, and then we jump to the 14th year, then we jump to the, whatever year. So there's these big gaps in time that we're missing stuff. I just wondered if that couldn't have been condensed down into a more condensed narrative rather than missing the big chunks of time. Whereas, and then this is where I'm guilty of comparing this to Noble House too much, is Noble House was essentially an action-adventure tale about high finance in Hong Kong that takes place in a 72-hour time frame. And it's almost 1,300 pages of, and it's got everything. It's got death, betrayal, car explosions, earthquakes, fires, landslides, storms, ships blowing up, people getting stabbed in the back, people getting shot in the face, karate people just taking it. I mean, it all takes place within 72 hours. So maybe I'm too used to the James Clavell condensing his stories into such a whoosh. And then this book was kind of like that. And then this book, it's spread out over a large span of time. That doesn't mean that the story wasn't so totally dope, because the story is dope. It's just all the characters get really old. All the young characters, the sort of the coming of age tale that we've got going for the first two books. Now suddenly the characters have really aged quite a bit. And I guess that's part of and let's talk about the characters. And there's Shay, the ones that stood out to me. Shay, I love Shay. Andon, of course, is everybody's favorite. Hilo, and then the Weatherman. Those are kind of all part of the Call family or the No Peaks clan. And then we've got Ait. I love Ait, just because I like saying the name. Ait. Hey, it's Ait. It's Ait. And then there's that, and then there's all the warring back and forth. And it's kind of like, this whole thing is a thing. This whole thing, it's like, when you watch, let me compare this to some gangsta stuff. When you watch that show Boardwalk Empire, you kind of know that that's about the mafia and its beginnings during Prohibition. And we get the Boardwalk Empire storyline, and we follow these gangsters for a little while, and then the story ends. But we know that the gangsters that there's generation after generation of gangsters that carry on after them. And then we get to say something like The Godfather or The Sopranos, where now we're in the 1970s and 1990s, and the gangsta stuff is still going. It picks up where it left off, and then once The Godfather's dead, and once Michael Corleone is dead, the gangsta stuff keeps continuing without him. This is like a snapshot of this generation of the Call family and Eitz family. It's kind of like the No Peaks clan and the Mountain clan, sort of like, this is a snapshot of their generation of mobsters in a line, in a 1,000-year line of generations of mobsters. Like, we could have like every generation of mobsters in this world that Fonda Lee's created could have an equally intriguing storyline that follows them through, just kind of like every mobster movies and TV shows we get just tell like a snippet of the mobster story. That's what we're getting. There's no like evil dark lord that needs to be killed, no ring that needs to be thrown into the fires of Mount Doom. There's no Darth Vader that needs to die, or no emperor. This is just a sneak peek at this generation's participation in these crime syndicate, in the skullduggery of this crime syndicate throughout time. And that's cool. We don't need anything more than that. We didn't ask anything more than that from the Godfather trilogy, or from Boardwalk Empire, or from The Sopranos, or from Goodfellas, or any of those. We just wanted to see that snippet of what those mobsters were doing while they were doing it, and then we know that their life will eventually die, and things will happen, and things will be tragic and awful. Some may become heroes, some will always be criminals, but the mobster game keeps going after them, and just like it had been going before. That's what I'm trying to say. God, that took 15 minutes to say that. Holy shit. Let's give this a review now. I love this trilogy. I think I gave books 1 and 2 10 out of 10 stars. I am going to drop this one to 9.5 just because I was thrown by the rapid aging of the characters throughout the book. And I understand kind of why it happened that way, and I won't get into that because it's spoilery stuff, but different people change over the course of their lives. And I get that. So let's give this a 9.5 out of 10. Certainly one of my favorite trilogies that I've read in a long time. And I gotta give credit where credit's due. This stuff is just friggin' dynamite. This is dynamite stuff. So, that be the end of the review.